Hello, my name is Erin Kitterman. Today I'm going to talk about the Arizona State Standards for World and Native Languages. Some things to know. All of the quotes that will be presented in this slide come directly from the Arizona State Standards, and any graphics as well also come from those standards. So, some things to know about these standards. The World and Native Languages standards describe what students should know and be able to do. This means that standards focus on both knowledge and skills, not just memorization. Students are expected to actively use the language in real situations, showing what they can actually do with it. Second, these standards are organized under two broad categories: communication and cultural competencies. The standards emphasize that learning a language is not just about speaking or writing. It also involves understanding culture. Both communication and cultural awareness are equally important parts of language learning. Next, they are not intended to be taught as separate entities, but should be interconnected during instruction. Teachers shouldn't isolate skills like speaking, reading, or culture into separate lessons. Instead, lessons should blend these areas together so learning feels more natural and meaningful. Next, these 9 strands are not intended to be taught separately and should be interconnected. The 9 strands include 5 communication skills, listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and 4 cultural areas that help students understand and apply language in real-world and cultural contexts. This reinforces the idea that language learning is integrated. Students develop skills more effectively when different aspects of language and culture are taught together rather than in isolation. Lastly, the standards are not linear and they have a dynamic nature. Learning a language doesn't follow a strict step-by-step path for every student. The standards allow flexibility so teachers can adjust instruction based on students' needs, backgrounds, and progress. And one more important note is that Arizona World and Native Languages standards are proficiency-based standards that are meant to be used with ACTFL's can-do statements. One more thing to know. Each standard has a code that tells you exactly what it means. For example, ILNH1 means interpretive listening, novice high, standard 1, as you can see here in the graphic. The standards are organized into strands, which are the main categories like communication and culture, and each strand includes specific standards that describe what students should be able to do. These skills are developed across performance levels, novice, intermediate, and advanced, which show how students progress from basic words to more complex and fluent communication. Each standard is labeled with a code that tells you the strand, level, and skill, helping teachers easily track and understand student growth. How they are based on national standards. These proficiency levels are based on the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, or ACTFL, proficiency guidelines from 2012, and can be used to measure performance in an instructional setting. Arizona relies on ACTFL's nationally recognized proficiency scale to define what students should be able to do. This helps standardize how language ability is assessed across different schools and programs all across the country. The Standards Committee reviewed standards and information from a variety of states and professional organizations to develop standards based on current research and student language learning. This indicates that Arizona standards were built using research and collaboration beyond just the state. By incorporating multiple sources, the standards reflect best practices from across the country. How they are adapted to our state. Our state standards provide opportunities for students to enter at any point in the K-12 curriculum. Unlike rigid systems, Arizona allows flexibility for when students begin learning a language. This makes the standards more inclusive and adaptable to different school programs. Our standards also reflect student performance expectations based on when that entry point occurs. Expectations are adjusted depending on when students start learning. This ensures fairness and realistic goals for all learners. Our standards also recognize that the needs of Native American speakers and heritage students are often unique. Arizona specifically considers its diverse population, especially Native American communities. The standards support language preservation and cultural identity. Arizona seeks to nurture and develop indigenous, heritage, and world languages. This highlights a key state priority, valuing the preservation of local languages. It reflects Arizona's cultural diversity and commitment to inclusivity. Let's talk about the guiding principles and goals of the Arizona State Standards. First, students build 21st century literacy skills. Language learning supports broader skills like communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. These are essential skills students need for future careers and global interaction. Learners benefit by having the language proficiency to communicate with global audiences. The goal is to prepare students to interact beyond their local environment. This reflects the importance of globalization and cross-cultural communication. Next, students must not only communicate, but in a culturally appropriate manner. It is not enough to just know words. Students must also understand how to use language respectfully and appropriately in different cultural contexts. Next, this approach aims to build learners' capacity to use the languages in functional and meaningful ways. The focus on real-world application, not just classroom exercises. Students should be able to use the language in practical, everyday situations. Next, students will be better positioned to live and work in an increasingly multilingual environment. The standards prepare students for a diverse global workforce. Being multilingual is seen as a valuable and necessary skill for the future. Here are a few things to remember when teaching. 1. The teacher must provide linguistic support or scaffolding for their instruction. Teachers need to guide students step by step as they learn. Support should gradually decrease when students become more independent. Second, students will tend to make many errors, and this is normal. Mistakes are a natural part of learning a language. Teachers should encourage practice and not penalize students too heavily for errors. Third, proficiency is the ability to spontaneously communicate. The ultimate goal is real, natural communication, not memorized responses. Students should be able to respond in real-time situations. Fourth, instruction should include the development of authentic situations. Lessons should simulate real-life scenarios so students can practice meaningful communication. This makes learning more engaging and practical. And fifth, over time, the support is removed and learners can demonstrate higher level performance. As students improve, teachers should step back. This helps students build confidence and independence in using the language. As a reminder, any of the quotes that were used during this presentation come directly from the Arizona Department of Education State Standards for World and Native Language. All right, thank you.